project, emptying a house, or doing a spring or fall cleanout. Just call Red Rooster Dumpster and Hauling at 724-569-0337 for rates and availability. Red Rooster Dumpster and Hauling in Smithfield also offers a 5% military discount. Call 724-569-0337 and look for the Red Rooster.
This is the story of a 7-year-old boy from Baltimore who nagged his parents incessantly for a pony until they moved to the mountain. There, over 40 years, I learned everything I could about the farmsteading lifestyle from great mentors. Oh, and by the way, I got my pony. I named him Captain.
Welcome once again, folks, to Farmsteaders Field Notes. I'm your host, Shawn from the Mountain. Glad you decided to join me here on WMBS 590 AM, 101.1 FM, www.wmbs590.com, and, of course, Facebook Live. And as always, if you have an agricultural event that's open to the public, please make a comment, and I will do my best to promote it, talk about it any way I possibly can. You know what? Let's start off with a little bit of news today. How about that? Alrighty, in the news, hey, last time we talked, it was eggs. Before that, it was rice and tomatoes that were being recalled. Let's add some other things to it. How about it? Any more reason to shop at a local farmer's market? Let me give it to you. More than 90% of samples of a dozen fruits and vegetables tested positive for potentially harmful pesticide residues, according to the 2025 Shopper's Guide to Pesticides in Produce. Dubbed the Dirty Dozen, the list is compiled from the latest government testing data on non-organic produce by the Environmental Working Group, or EWG, a health advocacy organization that has produced the annual report since 2004. Spinach topped the list, with more pesticide residue by weight than any other produce tested, followed by strawberries, kale, along with mustard greens, collards. I lost my place. Grapes, peaches, cherries, there we go, nectarines, pears, apples, blackberries, blueberries, and potatoes. The annual report is not meant to discourage consumers from eating fruits and vegetables, which are key to good health, but instead to provide tools for decisions on whether to buy organic for the fruits or vegetables that our families consume the most. The guide is there to help consumers eat a lot of fruits and vegetables while trying to reduce pesticide exposure. One of the things that a lot of peer-reviewed studies have shown over and over, that when people, switch to an organic diet from a conventional diet, you can really see measurable levels in the reduction of pesticide levels in your urine. The Alliance for Food and Farming, which represents organic and conventional produce farmers, has been a long-standing critic of the annual report. We strongly support consumer choice when shopping for fruits and vegetables, but this choice should not be influenced by the list. Teresa Thorne, the Alliance Executive Director, said in an email, Instead, consumers should be reassured by decades of toxicology studies, government data, and nutrition research, which underscores the importance of a diet rich in fruits and vegetables of health, on health and the safety of both organic and conventionally grown produce, Thorne added. New to the list, blackberries and potatoes. Blackberries were new to the list, having never been tested before by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, while potatoes joined the rankings after being absent in recent years, mainly due to the use of a plant growth regulator called chloropropam. The chemical has been banned in the European Union It's applied after harvest to essentially prevent potatoes from sprouting while they're in storage or in transit. Because it's applied so late after harvest and so close to when consumers might be exposed or eating potatoes, that's partially what leads to some of these really high concentrations. More than 50 different pesticides were detected on each of several crops on the Dirty Dozen section of the Shopper's Guide, which was updated this year to measure pesticide toxicity. We still have measurements of the detection frequency of pesticides, how many different pesticides are found on produce, as well as the overall concentration. We also have an indicator of that concentration relative to a dose that might cause harm in an animal study. A lot of the Dirty Dozen produce rank really highly when you look at pesticide toxicity, especially relative to the Clean 15 items, which have fewer detections of pesticide residues. As part of the report, EWG also creates the annual Clean 15, a list of conventional produce with the least amount of pesticide residue. Many of these fruits and vegetables are protected by skins you peel before eating, but not all. Pineapple was the least contaminated produce tested, followed by sweet corn, fresh and frozen, avocados, papaya, onions, fresh sweet peas, asparagus, cabbage, watermelon, cauliflower, bananas, mangoes, carrots, mushrooms, and finally kiwi. An important aspect of the USDA pesticide testing is they really try to mimic consumer behavior. They wash fruits or vegetables for about 15 to 20 seconds under running water, and then they also peel something like citrus or a mango or banana. If there are any pesticides on the outer layer that is removed, and that might be one of the reasons why some of these fruits or vegetables that are on the Clean 15 tend to have less detectable pesticide residues. More tips on how to clean produce. All produce, even organic, should be washed before peeled so dirt and bacteria aren't transferred from a knife onto the fruit or vegetable, according to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. After washing, dry and clean cloth or paper towel. Firm produce such as carrots, cucumbers, melons, and potatoes can be scrubbed with a clean vegetable brush under running water. As all other produce can be gently rubbed while being rinsed. There's no need to use bleach, soap, or a produce wash. Fruits and vegetables are porous and can absorb the chemicals. Remove the outmost leaves of cabbage, lettuce, and other leafy greens and rinse each leaf carefully. Don't blast your greens with water or you'll bruise them. Expert says it's best to use low-pressure water that is warmer than your produce and the colander to spin the greens dry. Don't forget to wash the colander afterwards. Pesticides have been linked, of course. This is always what we know for a fact, but pesticides have been linked to studies for premature births, congenital malformations, such as neural tube defects, spontaneous abortions, and in case genetic damage in humans. Exposure to pesticides has been associated with lower sperm concentrations, heart disease, cancer, and other diseases. Farm workers who use it or are exposed to pesticides are at high risk, according to studies. A 2022 meta-analysis found workers exposed to pesticides were nearly 5 times as likely to have DNA damage, while a February 2024 study concluded children exposed at an early age show poorer neurodevelopment from infancy. So, no more news there. We knew all that. Also in the news, it's still Dairy Month, and boy, have I been taking advantage of that. Actually, let me back away from the mic here. Yeah, feeling a little bit fat because I'm definitely taking advantage of the Dairy Month. But if you haven't yet, go out, have a milkshake, buy your dairy products now, because it is Dairy Month, and we're celebrating all things dairy. Also in the news, a major southwestern egg producer is calling for American hens to be vaccinated after the company lost about 60 million birds to avian influenza. Glenn Hickman, the president of Hickman's Family Farms in Arizona, said the death of 95% of the company's hens was a tragedy that did not have to happen. European countries have been using American-made vaccines to tamp down avian influenza, but vaccines can't be used in the U.S. because of concerns that broiler companies would lose export markets. At the expense of the egg industry and our consumers, we are effectively subsidizing the meat bird industry, Hickman said. The egg industry is less reliant on exports than the broiler industry, but has lost many more birds to avian influenza. Hickman said his company will have to lay off hundreds of workers. He asked supporters to contact USDA and their members of Congress to push for vaccination. Arizona had 3 of the nation's 4 avian influenza outbreaks in commercial farms in May. The infected egg operations, totaling 5 million birds, are in Maricopa County, home to Phoenix, according to USDA. The farms are the largest to be infected in Arizona since the current wave of avian influenza began in 2022. Only one other large farm, a South Dakota turkey operation, was infected in the U.S. last month. Several small sites also had outbreaks, including backyard flocks in Northampton County, Pennsylvania, and Anne Arundel County, Maryland, and live bird markets in Essex County, New Jersey, and Miami, Florida. So, also speaking about farmers markets, because it's one of those things that we like to talk about, and I do want to go back to one of those news articles again. If you remember what I said last week about, and I kept saying pesticide, but that's how we market it, and that's how we talk about it in the United States. But pesticides are insecticides. So any pesticides used are actual insecticides. They are killing more than just the pests. They're also killing our very beneficial pollinators out there. So please be very conservative if you have to use them at all. I've gone to a completely insecticide-free policy on my place, and I hope more people do that. Again, do your best, plant some flowers, get some pollinators going on your property, because we're losing them at record levels. Okay, this story was written about buying local, and I thought it was a pretty good perspective, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. And this was written by a woman named Carol Hardbarger, and she wrote, "I am blessed to live in a place in which I get dairy products and few other locally sourced farm items delivered to my front door on a weekly basis. Most of the dairy items are labeled as PA preferred, which means the product is produced, processed, and sold in the Commonwealth. This may not mean anything to some people, but to me, it means that I am pretty much guaranteed a fresh, wholesome product while at the same time supporting a dairy in my local community. Why do I care, and why does this matter to any consumer? A very relevant fact is that Pennsylvania has 7.7 million acres of farmland and 48,800 farms with an average farm size of 133 acres. 97% are family owned. In general, they are scattered all across the state, but by supporting a farm, I am supporting a local family operation. Pennsylvania is number 1 in the U.S. in the number of farm-to-friendly direct sales. This means that we have access to fresh farm raised fruits, vegetables, dairy, meats, and other products such as honey and preserved meats on pretty much a year-round basis, and we take advantage of it. Let's talk about what I think is the most obvious benefit to buying local, and that is taste. In my opinion, produce from a large supermarket chain is just as not as flavorful, even if it is labeled as local and it's in season, or as good as what I can buy from a local farmer's roadside stand or stall in a farmer's market. I don't blame the supermarket. There's a lot of things that affect its decision to making and buying produce, and there are some chains that do buy ripe or nearly ripe produce from farms in individual store localities. A lot of other factors add to this discussion of taste: distance to transport, ripeness when picked, knowledge of butchering and processing of meat, length of time from farm to table, etc. Then we have the nutrition content of the product. Every day that a fresh vegetable or fruit is in transport or sits in a storage area, nutrients are lost. Many fruit items are picked relatively green and then sprayed with ethylene gas to promote ripening when it is important to do so. Have you ever been told to put not quite ripe tomatoes in a paper bag with a ripe one? That's because the ripe tomatoes will emit ethylene, a hormone that plays an important role in the ripening process for many fruits. By putting the unripe tomatoes in a bag with the ripe one, you're promoting the ripening process, much like the large supermarkets or suppliers do. Because distance in transport is a big factor, I am confident that locally sourced farm items are freshly harvested and allowed to ripen naturally. Here is how it works with my local food cooperative for produce, bakery, and other items. I create an online order up to 24 hours before delivery or pickup. The member farms deliver my order to the cooperative site, which then takes it to a centralized pickup area. I then pick up my order within 24 to 36 hours of harvest. I can also go to their pickup site a few days a week to shop directly. Because this is a weekly service, I am pretty much guaranteed a fresh, tasty, and nutritious product. My local dairy and I referenced in the beginning of the column works in much the same way as the local cooperative I access. Farmers in the area provide PA-preferred cheese and frozen meats to the dairy, which then delivers them to me along with its own selection of products. There are other considerations that play into the benefits of buying local, such as amount of insecticide use and waste reduction. But perhaps the most important of these is the contribution that your purchase makes to the local community. A purchase from a local farm or farmers supports not only their business, but also the local hardware and farm supply stores, banks, churches, and civic organizations, veterinarians, and other businesses that are able to remain viable based on a continuing stable and hopefully growing population. Now to address the boogeyman hiding under the bed, the cost. It may cost more to purchase locally sourced farm products than to buy your weekly groceries from the supermarket or other large retailers, and I recognize that is a big issue in today's economy. I don't want to give the impression that I don't and won't use those stores, as they provide access to many staple items that I cannot get through my local farm vendors. Also, being a retiree on a fixed income, there are some months that cost is more of a consideration than directs me to large retail stores. I recognize that I am suggesting a lot, and I am not always able to follow my own advice, but I do believe that you're just making one or two changes would help your local economy. As an example, PA Preferred Milk is most likely available in the supermarket where you currently shop. You just have to look for the symbol, a check mark with the words PA Preferred in yellow and blue logo. If you do not see milk or other dairy products with the PA Preferred logo, you can check the plant code to make certain the item has been processed and sold in Pennsylvania. The plant code is generally stamped on the carton close to the sell-by date and usually begins with PIT code, followed by a number for Pennsylvania 42, followed by another set of numbers that indicate the actual plant in which the milk or other product was processed. For example, a plant code of 42-136 indicates milk that is processed by Harrisburg Dairies in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So, for you, buying milk processed in Pennsylvania may be that one thing that you can realistically do. You can also do an online search for a local butcher shop, farm cooperative, or farmer's market that is open for a major part of the year. A few items here and there in your pantry or refrigerator are a good start. Another change to consider is consuming fruits and vegetables that are in season and available through a local source. This is a big one. During the winter months, the selection may be a variety of greens and root vegetables. And I'm certainly not opposed to anyone buying that box of Florida fruit from the local FFA chapter. I've done it each year for many years. Well, we live in a different world today that is hard to understand the global economy, but I assure you, a few steps to support your local dairies and meat and other farm products vendors will contribute to both your eating pleasure and help ensure the economic viability of your community. Good article, I thought. Also in the news, the West Virginia Department of Agriculture wanted to make the announcement that seniors from across all counties who qualified for the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, or SFMNP, can pick up their voucher book worth $30. The program is offered in all 55 counties. The vouchers can be used to buy fresh produce, honey, and herbs at participating farmers markets and roadside stands. And unfortunately, Pennsylvania is still under some questionable things regarding that and SNAP benefits and so on and so forth. But if you contact your local farmers market, they can certainly direct you in the right place. Some people have told me that some of Pennsylvania's benefits that used to be $10 are down to $5, but double check with them, make sure you know what's going on there. And hopefully we can get that all sorted out and stop the government bureaucracy here and let people eat fresh again. Oh, you know what? While we're talking about farmers markets, let's go ahead and do it.
Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, chicken, turkeys, rabbits, you name it. Look, I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkeys, rabbits, you name it.
Anyway, just love that. Absolutely love it. Anyway, your farmers markets local to us here in the tri-state region, Uniontown, PA, every Saturday, Bailey Park, 9 to 12 p.m., now till September 27th. Bedford, Pennsylvania, every Saturday, Lambertville Methodist Church, now until October, 9 to 1 p.m. Frostburg, Maryland, at Frostburg City Place, now until October, 9:30 to 1 o'clock. Connellsville Farmers Market, those are on Thursdays. East Side Fire Station, 5 to 8 p.m., 100 North Arch Street. Confluence Farmers Markets in the town square, a variety of dates, June 28th, July 26th, August 30th, and they go from 8 to 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. Mountain Fresh Market in Oakland, Maryland, now through October 31st on Wednesdays and Saturdays, South First Street, Town Park Lane, from 10 to 1 o'clock. SoCo, the Somerset County Farmers Market, 243 West Main Street. It's on Saturdays from now until October 11th from 9 to 1 o'clock. Keystone State Park Farmers Market, Keystone State Park Farmers Market every Sunday, now until September 28th, 10 to 2, 1150 Keystone Park Road, Derry, Pennsylvania, the beach parking lot. Ligonier Country Market every Saturday, now through September 27th, 8 to 12 p.m., plus other random days, so check their website, corner of Springer Road and Main Street. Deep Creek Farmers Market, Garrett College parking lot every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. until October 4th. Davis Farmers and Artisan Market every Friday, 5 to 8 p.m., June through September. Barber County Fairgrounds, their farmers market every Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. from now till October. Cheat Lake Farmers Market every Monday from June through mid-October, 4 to 7 p.m. in the parking lot of Chestnut Ridge Church, 2223 Cheat Road, Washington, PA, every Wednesday, 10 to 1 p.m. till October, next to the courthouse. Lower Burrell Farmers Market, Bon Air School parking lot, 9 to 12:30, every Saturday till October 4th. The Mountain Areas Farmers Market, Farmington Fire Hall, 4 to 8 p.m. Their next one will be June 20th, and they're also including an animal swap in that one. Morgantown, West Virginia, downtown every Saturday. They have two markets in Morgantown, 8:30 to 12 o'clock in the large pavilion, and then also at Milan Park, 270 Milan Park Lane, Wednesdays starting now, and it goes from 4 to 7 p.m. Cumberland, Maryland, they have their farmers markets as Canal Place on Thursdays from 9:30 to 1 p.m. And, of course, also our small animal auctions and projects going on here. Again, we've had a lot of small animal auctions that have been doing very, very well in Western and Grantsville, so you want to make sure just to keep patronizing them if you're looking for anything in the way of poultry and poultry products. I believe the next one, let me check really quickly here, I've lost it. But anyway, there was one coming up in Grantsville again here in June. Make sure you check it out. That's their second one this month. But the Uniontown Poultry Association, who usually has their buy, sell, and trade at the Fayette County Fairgrounds, will not be holding one in June. They will not be holding one in July because they're concerned about the avian influenza issues, and they don't want to have close down and shut down during the fair. So that the 4-H kids can still bring their projects for a couple of days there, their meat pens of chickens. So they're going to be closed in July. But check out some of the correlating fairs and the festivals and and swaps and things around that do have poultry and try to patronize them. I know there's one in Delmont. I know there's one in Indian Head. So check those out. Use your internet to check those out and find out when they're going to have their next ones, because they're kind of sporadic. But again, the next one for the Uniontown Poultry Association will be August 17th. That'll be their next one. And again, Indian Head will have they'll have a swap. It's usually like the second Sunday of every month from 7 in the morning till 11ish. And then again, Delmont has their Busy Beaver swap, 401 Vine Street, Route 22, next to the Walmart. And you have to check out when they're having their dates and times. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it, but it's already fair season. And just to mention a few of the fairs, and again, I'm going to just kind of jump around here a little bit.
At Breezeline, great connection.
But anyway, some of our fairs that are coming up, just to name a few. You know what? I think I got some music for that. I really should have some music for that somewhere. Let's try.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Remember me to one who lives there.
Song always puts me on fair season. Anywho, some of the fairs that are coming up in June and July. I want to mention it now because it's good to plan. But anyway, the fairs in PA, June 22nd to the 28th, the Mountain Area Fair. That always happens up at the Farmington Fire Hall, and every year that one keeps getting bigger and bigger because that one's relatively local to me. But that one's going to be June 22nd to the 28th at the Farmington Fire Hall, Mountain Area Fair. June 27th to July 5th is going to be the Butler Fair, for those that like to trek up for that. July 13th to the 19th, Derry Township in Westmoreland County has their fair, the Derry Township Fair. It's always it's a small fair, but it's very agriculture based, very livestock based, really wonderful little fair. And also the Jacktown Fair is happening July 15th to the 19th. Again, some of these fairs tend to overlap, which annoys me greatly, but people have to do what they have to do. And I know even some of these neighboring counties, some of the county fairs are always happening at the same time. Seems like Somerset and Westmoreland are always happening the exact same week. So if you can, do your best to kind of support both if it's possible to go to both. And it's a beautiful day out, for heaven's sakes. Also, July 20th to the 26th, the Bedford County Fair. I know a young lady that goes that one just for the gyros. She just makes a specific voyage to go out there and see Jimmy the Greek with his wonderful gyros. So go ahead and give that, if whatever draws you to the fair. Hey, it's a wonderful thing. July 24th to August 2nd is, of course, our Fayette County Fair here in Dunbar, Pennsylvania. And we will be doing a live broadcast from there during that week for this show. And I know throughout the week, WMBS does a lot of special things for that. So make sure to check out WMBS's booth at the beginning of the fair as soon as you enter in to where the office is on your left. In West Virginia, July 23rd to the 26th is the Nicholas County Fair. And there's more fairs in West Virginia, but they tend to be later in the year, so we'll talk about them more as they come about. In Maryland, July 11th through the 19th is the Allegheny County Fair. Also at the same time, July 12th through the 19th is the Washington County Fair. That's Maryland, of course, Washington County, Maryland Fair. And finally, July 26th through August 2nd, again, always happening, doubling over, but the Garrett County Fair happens the same time as our Fayette County Fair. But the July 26th to the August 2nd, the Garrett County, Maryland Fair, which is also a very beautiful fair. That was where I grew up as a kid. It's just an absolutely beautiful and magnificent fair, no doubt about it. Okay, so on to other things. We've left that behind. Let's talk about some other things. A topic that I wanted to discuss now, and mostly because of the heavy flooding that's happening throughout all of our listening area, in particular south of us, is probably getting hit the worst. Here, Smithfield, Pennsylvania's got it pretty bad. Also, I know Wheeling, which is actually northeast of us, or northwest of us, is getting hit really, really bad. Valley Point out there and a lot of different areas. South of us, Fairmont, really super bad. and they're just getting a real pounding in Morgantown as well. I just wanted to say that, everybody, from us to you, our hearts are just we reach out to you. We're extremely, extremely upset about all this flash flooding and all the damage that it's causing, to all of your property, to all of your homes, to all of your farmsteads, for that matter, out there. And it's just been a constant battering. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, it was happening in LaVale, Maryland, from where I originally was from, and Cressup Town and Lonaconing, and they were just getting bombarded by this extremely heavy rain. So there's not much I can talk about that's ag related that can really help with that. But I can say this, that it's a time to be concerned, even if you can't maybe protect your crops in the best way. There may be some things you can do, create barriers or what have you. But there's not a whole lot that you can do to protect them. But when it comes to your livestock, there are certain steps that you can take. One of the biggest deals is trying to maintain some dry bedding. And I did want to talk about bedding a little bit today, because it is an important part of what happens with our livestock. There has to be a certain amount of rest. Even, as much as you want your livestock to go out and to consume everything that they possibly can. If it's dairy, you want them to consume a lot of protein so that they can make more milk. If it's a beef or a livestock animal, what you want to do, you want them to constantly be eating so that they're putting on more flesh. And so, but there is a certain part of that you have to be aware of, and that there has to be a rest period. So it can't just be consume. The animals have to be able to come to rest. And one of the ways that best supports that rest period, that creates the milk or the marketable feed, is to create a dry space, because nothing is worse than an animal being wet constantly all the time. I mean, they're not a fish, right? So and wet, and then when it starts to dry and becomes extremely humid, like it's been around here in Uniontown, where we broadcast from, that's the best place and time for bacteria and spores and things to take hold. And you have those issues on the feet, which can create, all kinds of sores and issues and foot rot in all of our livestock. So we have to kind of provide that dry space. And there's a number of different avenues that we can use to do that. There's a number of different products that we can buy to keep our livestock perfectly dry. Some of the more common would be straws, and this could be wheat straw, it can be oat straw, it can be any number of different straws. But the point of straw being that after we've taken all of our seeds, our grains from them, they're gone through and they're chopped, dried, baled. And because they've gone through such a long extended drying period, straw is extremely absorbent. And it's one of those reasons why we love straw. We love using straw in not only with our livestock, but also in lawn applications. If we're going to throw straw down, it maintains and keeps that moisture to it, and allows you to plant seed on top of it. But straw is an extremely important one. It's a good one. And I like straw. I like straw for the poultry. I like straw for the pigs. Love straw for the pigs. I love straw for the goats. And again, I love straw for the cattle, even horses. But it's one of those things that has a lot of benefit to it. One of the things, unfortunately, is that the cows and the goats sometimes tend to eat some of it. And it's not that they really love it, but sometimes it's just a change. It's something different from that beautiful, gorgeous green alfalfa that you're feeding. Oh, look, something different. I'm going to go over here and eat it. So, you have to be aware of how much of that they're actually consuming and how much they're laying on, because that can also lead to some problems. Also, straw, if it's allowed to compact, if you do sort of a bedding pack system like what I do to allow it to get higher from the fall all the way to the spring, straw is extremely hard to dig up. Okay, so if you don't have a tractor and you're trying to do this with your back, believe me, it's not going to. Remember what they use straw for. If if you sit around and you read your Bible, especially on these horrible rainy days, you got nothing else to do, and you're sitting around, and you're reading your Bible, or you're going to church on Sunday, you know that the ancient pharaohs, whenever they were building the pyramids and they were doing all of this construction of temples and things. Edifices and whatever, but they would use straw heavily in making brick. Egyptian brick is a heavy component of it is straw because it binds very well, and so a lot of these structures that still exist today have Egyptian brick, and if they've wanted to sort of penalize their Hebrew slaves, if they wanted to make life harder on them, and just to make them work so much harder, and instead of even just going to the trouble of whipping them, all they would do is just say, I want you to make as many bricks as you did yesterday, but you're not going to use straw. And that was extremely hard, and so the work had to almost double or triple, and obviously was absolutely extremely brutal. But that just goes to tell you, when that straw lays down and it hatches and it cross hatches on each other, it becomes extremely, extremely deep packed whenever it gets urinated on and so forth. Another big thing used in bedding is shavings, and there's a variety of shavings out there. I always recommend the hardwood shavings just because they have a tendency to break down faster. Your pine shavings are usually going to be cheaper. They're usually going to be more ample, easy to find. But as a person that does a lot of composting and using manure as a component of that compost, I can tell you that the pine shavings take a very long time to break down, mostly because they're not the most absorbent thing in the entire world, because they still, even though they're dried, they still contain a certain amount of that sap, that pine sap in it. And so, you can stack down a lot of those pine shavings, and then, as things pile on top of it, manure and new bedding and whatnot, the aerobic and anaerobic functions don't always work out. So whenever you clean this off, you still have shavings under there. They're not breaking down hardly at all. However, if you want to use it in an area where you don't mind that it takes a long time, I know a lot of people that use pine shavings in their gardens for walkways and paths like this because it takes so long to break down, and because it is good at keeping weeds from coming up from it. So, make that call, sort of decide. But when I'm if I'm having to use shavings for anything, I'll use the aspen. I don't use the cedar. The cedar is great to keep bugs away. Cedar is just an actual bug repellent. They just, they really, really hate cedar. It's also sometimes, I'm told, is good to keep away, snakes and other small rodents. But again, you get into that problem where it doesn't want to necessarily break down super fast. And then also there is some oil that comes out of cedar shavings that's not necessarily good long term. So kind of think about that. Older hay, I tend to concern myself with and try to keep away from, unless it's an early bedding and then I can throw on top of it, because old hay is basically getting to be moldy, and it's something, again, you don't want your animals to consume. So I try not to think about it. One quick story, another bedding that I'm absolutely addicted to, and I'm sort of kicking myself over, just kicking myself over my head with it, beating myself over the head with, because you ever had that thought in your mind, or that opportunity in your mind, where you said to yourself, I could have made $1 million at one point in my life? I've probably had a couple of those moments, but one of those most profound moments where I could have made $1 million, in my youth, when I first got out of college, I worked for a couple of years at a big Angus operation. And at this big Angus operation, the owner of the place used a lot of corn, obviously, in the ration. He mixed his own ration, did his own oats and whatnot. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, a lot of the corn was just dried corn that he threw it into a grinder, and it grinded it out, and it created what generically in the world of ag we call chop. And he was starting to feed it to his cows. And, we did some minerals and we did some other things, but it just didn't seem like the cattle were doing that great. And a lot of it was because, in addition to all that corn and whatnot mixed into it, the silage and whatnot, that was mixed into the mix, there was a lot of corn cob. So decided to take the extra step to go ahead and shell the corn, just add just shelled corn as part of the mix instead of the entire corn in the cob. And so when the cob was separated, we had this huge pile of cobs. And I thought to myself then, and I should have acted on it then, but I thought to myself, you know what, if you could grind up this cob and really dry it out really, really well, it would be an amazing bedding. And lo and behold, and probably the last 10 years or so, there has been a lot of interest in using that. One company in particular, Beck's Better Bedding, has done an exceptional job with that. And Beck's, they're based out of Indiana. I could probably have made that a Made in America segment. But anyway, they're a company that was selling seed corn and whatnot, but they were also getting into the bedding industry with this. I love it. I buy it. It's cheaper. It's a wonderful pre-use. Throw it down in all the stalls. You can use it with the cows. I've used it with the pigs. I've used it with the goats and all those things. And it's extremely absorbent. With the goats, I love it because it's not dusty. It's not something that's going to cause, particularly anything can cause mastitis, but the small particles are the things that you got to worry about. I also like it for the chickens. I particularly like it for the smaller chickens because anything like super small, like shavings wise, really shouldn't be used as a bedding for your chicks, for your little ducks, because they're doing so much pecking down there. You don't want them to overconsume bedding. You want them to consume what they're supposed to, which is their food and their grit. So again, it's bigger chunks, but as soon as it's stomped and manured on or urinated on or whatever, it starts to pack down, but it also starts to sort of puff up and it becomes very, very, very soft. So if I could just, advocate one bedding to highly look at and to buy, I'm really using a lot of the Beck's Better Bedding lately. Also, one other thing that I've always used and, people sort of trying to stay away from, I like, and I always have liked, in certain instances, I've always liked shredded newspaper. And if you can get enough of it, it's wonderful to use, especially if you're for a fact, like, I'm use confirmed sources that I know aren't using toxic inks. They're using the soy ink and whatnot. But for instances where I have to take, the small animals, in the cold winter months, I can use some shredded newspaper for that. I also use shredded newspaper for my red wiggler worms, the ones that I'll bring in. This last winter, I brought some in out of the cold just to make sure that I would still have them this year. It was my own little concern. The worm population did fine over winter, but I just, I thought, why not just bring some in to the kitchen, use some worm bins, and throw my kitchen scraps in there. And they love newspaper, so I put some newspaper in there too. So I also use that. Used coffee grounds, that's sort of taking up something that's gone on for a long time that I've used as an amendment to my compost and the manure piles and whatnot, just to keep the smell down, because you throw coffee grounds on a steaming hot pile of compost and the smell is worlds better than just leaving it. But some have tried to use it, and it's very expensive. It's like $16 for a 40 pound bag of used coffee grounds, and they've tried to use it. But again, and I saw a large big box store try to use it as a, for their chicks. They've put it down as the bedding for the chicks. I would not recommend that. Again, the particles are so small that they can overconsume it and can be treacherous. But I love coffee grounds as an amendment to anything else that you're using, especially if you got to walk in there and smell it all the time. Make sure you use it. So it's been good for me. I know a lot of people that also, and especially in the dairy industry, they'll use sand. If they can get it cheap enough, they'll use sand, which wonderful for the cows. Again, I use sand, particularly not as so much as a bedding, but more as a dust bath thing. I have I guess it's a 3x3 box that I put in the chicken coop, or I put in with my ducks. I was going to talk about my ducks, but I'm running out of time. Anyway, I'll talk about my ducks next week. But I'll put them in there with the chickens and the ducks, and they'll use it to dust bath. They'll get in and they'll roll around, and maybe I'll put some treatments if I'm concerned that maybe to prevent lice and something like that, some dust, some livestock dust in there, some diatomaceous earth, something like that. We can put that in there. So Just a few ideas, and I just wanted to put that out. And I thought because of our current weather disastrous issues that we're having with the heavy flooding and whatnot, that just some things to keep in mind to keep your livestock together and extremely healthy. And you got to give them that nice, clean, dry bedding somewhere to get out of. And I'm getting the flag that I'm running out of time. As usual, I just keep palavering and talking and talking and talking. But as always, we love to have fun here on the Farmsteaders Field Notes. But there's absolutely nothing funny about spending $45 million on a parade when that meeting could have just been an email. So make sure to have fun this week. Enjoy yourself. Remember, we're all just future compost. Stay tuned for CNN News at this hour. Thank you.
You're listening to WMBS Uniontown. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.